This is a compelling story of William G Kerckhoff, which is told through many interesting and outstanding photos collected since 1998. The story is in 4 parts. It is a wonderment that one person could have accomplished all to the finish line, but the fact that he never failed is an outstanding fact, which proves he had integrity, probity, and reliability. His word was his bond. Today, it is hard for us to understand, for a handshake was in place of all the legal documents we have today. This gentleman's agreement defined the business milieu of William Kerckhoff. Let's move on into the Kerckhoff's incredible accomplishments, projects which set the course for the growth of California for decades, yet so innocently and so honestly completed based on a man's word of honor. It was for his integrity, probity, and reliability that the New York financial houses and banks advanced funds, approved bond issues, and otherwise endorsed Mr. Kerckhoff's projects before even the initial plans for the project were drafted. This commemorative covers some of the many accomplishments of William G. Kerckhoff. The Upland Community Foundation commissioned Art Mortimer to create this mural within the grounds of the San Antonio Park at the Trolley waiting station, as shown in the photo of the mural. Mr. Kerckhoff purchased the Ontario and San Antonio Railroad Company and expanded the service from Ontario and Upland to Claremont and Pomona before selling the larger company to the Pacific Electric Company. In the center of the mural, you will see the 1907 trolley at the San Antonio Park's waiting station. This was the northwestern terminus of the railroad. Here, the Electric Railroad created a park setting and built this granite fieldstone station for the convenience of the passengers waiting for the next trolley or a motor stage. The motor stage on designated days would take the riders up the winding road to Camp Baldy. During the summer, the trolley ride was a favorite, and especially to the park. The cool ride, because of the movement of the trolley, was a relaxing way to spend a hot weekend. The last scheduled trolley from Ontario to the park was at 10 p.m. Many took just the ride up, then down to the valley floor. The Upland Community Foundation restored the waiting station. William G. Kerckhoff was born on March 30, 1856, at Terre Haute, Indiana, the son of George W. B. Kerckhoff and Philippine Nuart Kerckhoff. William G. spent his early boyhood days out of doors as much as he could, for he loved fishing and hunting. As Henry W. O'Melveny wrote, "The love of the outdoors was born within him, and this inborn love was encouraged and nurtured and increased by the environment surrounding him, so that it remained with him all his life." After the end of the Prussian-Austrian War in 1866, George Kerckhoff and his brother-in-law decided to take their families and go back to Germany. Here, William attended the gymnasium at Lingen, where his father was educated. In a very few years, the two families realized that they preferred the U.S. and returned to Terre Haute. In 1875, William's cousin, George Reisman, had planned a trip to California, and William joined him. The transcontinental trip by rail had glamour and adventure. When they arrived in the San Joaquin, it was a vast, unoccupied plain with only a few towns and villages. Roads were few and unimproved. Transportation was by stagecoach. The young men, as vagabonds, camped in the Sierras, Yosemite Valley, and went on to the Big Trees area on the Calaveras River. Their wanderings took them through meadows with abundant wildflowers, running streams, granite masses, and domes of Yosemite, the moonlight and reflections on the river, and all this made a deep imprint. He never lost his love for the mountains. In 1877, through William's persuasion, his father visited California with his daughter Augusta. Once here, they were so favorably impressed, they all moved to California. Jumping ahead, though relative to Yosemite Valley, in 1889, Yosemite Park was under the ownership and care of the state of California. The park was managed by a commission of 5 members. William was appointed by Governor Budd in 1898 and reappointed in December 1902 by Governor Gage. He served until March 1905, when the area was re-granted to the U.S. government. This was the only public office he ever held, for his multi-businesses required his full attention, as you will clearly witness. William Kerckhoff's entrance into business was by purchasing an interest in the J.G. Jackson Lumber Company on the corner of First and Alameda Streets. At the age of 23, this was a natural course, for he loved the outdoors, and the smell of pine, cedar, and other woods connected him to the mountains. Los Angeles and the surrounding area had a population at that time of about 10,000. Mr. Cusner was the manager of the Los Angeles Yard, which was part of a San Francisco lumber company. After some correspondence back and forth, the price was $7,500 for a quarter of the company. Mr. Kerckhoff asked Mr. Cuzner, "Where do you come in?" He went on to say that he was retiring. William quickly said, "Oh no, I know nothing about the business, and if you do not stay, the deal is off." Mr. Cuzner then purchased also a quarter interest, and on April 1st, 1879, the firm became Jackson, Kerckhoff, and Cuzner. On November 13th, 1883, Mr. Kerckhoff was married to Miss Louise Ashman at Terre Haute, Indiana. The couple came to Los Angeles, as Henry W. O'Melveny wrote. This was truly one of those marriages made in heaven. When William's father arrived, he purchased a quarter from the Jackson interest, and William took the remaining quarter interest. They incorporated December 17, 1883. Mr. Kerckhoff was president, and Mr. Cuzner was vice president. The corporation purchased Bosque's Island in San Pedro for their wharves. So at 27, William was married and owned one half of the lumber company, with his father owning a quarter and Mr. Cuzner owning the remaining quarter. During the boom of 1887, Kerckhoff-Cuzner Milling and Lumber witnessed delays in getting lumber from their sawmill in Gardner, Oregon, so they commissioned their own ocean freighter, Pasadena. An idea proposed to them by Union Oil was to burn bunker fuel instead of coal, a revolutionary change from the past. The idea was never heard of, burning oil at sea. Oil burns on water. When they told the shipbuilder of their plan, the shipbuilder refused. They would not build it, for they felt responsible for the lives of the crew. However, they finally went ahead. The big change was the placement of the tanks on the deck, for the coal compartment would have been too close to the boilers. From the start, the change from coal to oil was a great success. No longer was it necessary to have two men shoveling coal day and night, for the same could be accomplished by just turning a valve. Then a shocker. A small ferry boat blew up due to oil, resulting in the killing and drowning of many people. As it turned out, the oil tank was intact after lifting the ferry. The blast was due to a defective boiler. Kerckhoff had his two brothers-in-law as officers. One served as secretary and the other was treasurer. The wholesale side of the business on the wharves continued well after the passing of Louise. They had lumber yards in Azusa, Burbank, Glendora, La Monda, Los Angeles, Pasadena, Pomona, including yards in Imperial Valley, and the wholesale yard was at the wharves in San Pedro. This photo shows Los Angeles Plaza, and in the background, the main office of Kerckhoff-Cuzner Mill and Lumber Company. This photo shows the celebration of the first rail service to Pasadena on September 21, 1885. Note the lumber company in the background and the two children. Of the lumber firms that were in business from 1883 to 1890, not one existed except for Kerckhoff-Cuzner Milling and Lumber. Also, it is worthy to note that up until the mid-20s, primarily all of the citrus packing houses were wood-sided, and the same could be said for many commercial buildings. The Craftsman or Victorian styles dominated the construction of new homes until the mid-20s, and this design called for wood or shingle siding. The use of stucco for exteriors followed this trend to imitate the Spanish or the Venetian styles. Also, prior to the 1890s, cement had to be imported from England. California Portland Cement Company was started in the 1890s after discovering Slover Mountain in Colton. In 1891, the life work of William G. Kerckhoff made an abrupt change. He observed the potential power of water, which generated electricity, and was consumed several feet away. The first commercial use of the San Gabriel River water was to manufacture ice. The project was initiated by Metcalf Dodsworth. His idea was that ice could be manufactured by the power of water at a cost that would produce a handsome profit. He interested William Kerckhoff in this project. The water of the San Gabriel River, running in a ditch belonging to one of the irrigation companies, crossed a gulch in a flume that had a 60-foot drop, and after the drop could still continue in the irrigation ditch. The place was at Azusa and the Santa Fe tracks. The Kerckhoff-Cuzner Company purchased about 15 acres for $15,150 in gold coins and started the Azusa Ice and Cold Storage Company on January 12, 1891, with the financial help of additional investors, which included Messrs. M. G. Eschman, Abe Haas, Casper Cohn, and Henry O'Melveny. The power of water changed the direction of the life of William G. Kerckhoff. Within a year from opening the ice plant, the Santa Fe system was buying daily up to 100 tons of ice, primarily to be used in the shipping of citrus. An addition was made to the plant in 1894 and again in 1903 when they purchased a 35-ton refrigerator machine. This was in addition to their existing three 16-ton machines. The plant was an instant success and very profitable. The Santa Fe system had agreed to purchase all surplus ice before the plant was even built. This ice plant, with its water power, was the forerunner of the vast hydroelectric system which Mr. Kerckhoff had the vision to assemble. Fire destroyed the plant in 1922. Now we realize we are jumping way ahead of our developing timeline, though we wanted to illustrate the growing demand for energy, ice, and other commodities as a result of the emerging, thriving California citrus industry. This was 1905, and the place, Azusa Ice and Cold Storage Company. Note the 3 additions to the building. Based on the year, the Azusa location, and the structural changes, the writer is suggesting this exterior site to be the Azusa Ice and Cold Storage Company. Pictured left to right were Mr. Pate, AT&SF, J.G. McKinney, Los Angeles Ice and Cold Storage Company, B.A. Woodford, manager of the Azusa Covina Fruit Exchange and general manager of the California Fruit Growers Exchange, G.H. Powell, pomologist, USDA, and Walter Barnwell, assistant freight agent for the AT&SF Railway. Their visit was to learn the efficiencies by seeing firsthand the energy or power of water employed in making ice. They realized the need of ice, though the importance or prominence was the economical means by which it was produced. At this moment in time, we need to take a detour or a spur to also cover a very important event which solidified Mr. Kerckhoff's quest to employ the power of water. Before you are photos of Dr. Cyrus G. Baldwin, Marion W Dekker, and George Westinghouse. Dr. Baldwin had the good providence or good fortune in having an exemplary friend, Marion W Dekker, who had a sharp interest in electricity and engineering. The year was 1891. Dr. Cyrus Baldwin, the first president of Pomona College, enjoyed the outdoors and highly valued the time spent in the San Antonio Canyon. He envisioned a dream, looking down from high up in the steep ravine, of lighting at night the valley floor below from the power of the swift-flowing creek. Immediately after hearing of Cyrus's interest, Dekker formulated a system proposal of 10,000 volts with 3-phase alternating current. When George Westinghouse heard of the aforementioned plan, he scoffed at the entire project. Though later, hearing that 2 of his respected peers thought the system had merit, Westinghouse decided to build the plant. The only exception was the 3-phase pure foolishness. This had to be omitted. The bird's-eye view of the tunnel can be seen as designed by Dr. Baldwin. This photo is proof of Dr. Baldwin's zealous salesmanship. He told others, and his earnest enthusiasm compelled more to join with him in buying into his plan of building a hydroelectric plant in the San Antonio Creek. Further, from the revenue earned from the sale of electricity, he could endow his young Congregational College. He sold stock to raise the funding of this tunnel, which extended about 1,300 feet to the other side of the hill, and the tunnel took a significant duration to complete. A pipeline brought down the water under high pressure, which energized the plant. Some in the photo can be identified as Dr. Baldwin in a dark suit on the left, J. Albert Dole, president, standing in front of the tunnel, and A. W. Burt, general manager, with transit. One can view from Dr. Baldwin's photo the high-pressure water line leading from the tunnel to the San Antonio Light and Power Company's hydroelectric plant. The plant is hidden due to the elevation change of the creek bed. One can also plainly see the debris spilled out from digging the tunnel. In the left foreground, you can catch a glimpse of the house for the caretaker. As mentioned in an Edison Company publication by William A. Myers, Iron Men and Copper Wires, Dr. Baldwin's success through his brilliant engineer Marion W Dekker, establishing a world's record for commercial long-distance electric transmission. On November 28, 1892, the plant was energized and 10,000 volts of alternating current flowed 14 miles to Pomona. Again on December 31, 1892, a line of 29 miles was energized and placed in service to San Bernardino, illuminating the Times Index building. As stated, the distance was a world record, though what was also unique was the use of a higher voltage alternating current system with the concept of step-up and then step-down transformation of current at the destination. Dekker's rule of thumb was that he needed 1,000 volts of pressure to reach a mile in distance. With this development, the formulation had finally been set, which could enable electric service to be extended to any outlying customer. The Pomona accomplishments of Dr. Cyrus G. Baldwin and engineer Marion W Dekker caught the attention of the world. The oil-filled transformers became standard in the industry, though the paramount principle was the unique step-up, step-down transformation for long-distance transmission of electricity. All were quantum advancements. Also from this, Westinghouse's name became known. Let's go inside. Here we view a big flywheel driving one dynamo. Please note the back wall. Today we take concrete as a prevalent common material, but then the source was England. It was shipped in barrels to this site. Another photo of Dr. Baldwin's, showing the interior of the plant including the switchboard and the bank of transformers which increased the voltage output of the two generators, shown on the right. This photo shows the bank of Dr. Baldwin's history-making transformers through the engineering of Marion W Dekker, a true accomplishment, and the basic principle is approximately the same today. The rainfall statistics gives proof of the severity of the drought as illustrated for upland. To compensate for the decrease in surface water flowing through the creek, this small pioneer company installed in Pomona, in the 300 block of North Gibbs, a steam plant to produce more electricity, incurring more expense. Then, the knockout punch. A blizzard struck and caved in the roof of their hydroelectric plant. Finally, the SALP just could not match the forces of nature. Dr. Baldwin and his investors lost their company. The year was 1899, and it would appear to the contentious that SALP was a failure. Its failure was due to the fickle and unpredictable weather. Yes, in looking back, they had more than their share of reversals, though they were forerunners. This company was the first to establish the commercial feasibility of long-distance, high-voltage transmission of alternating current through the use of transformers. Probably its highest consideration to this forerunner company was that it established the primary foundation and principles of the grid system used worldwide by the electrical utility industry. No one cannot conclude that Dr. Baldwin and his investors were unrealistic individuals. They were ahead of the times. To continue our journey on this detour regarding the work of Dr. Baldwin, his progress was closely watched by William Kerckhoff and a group from Redlands. Harry H. Sinclair in 1892 organized Redlands Electric Light and Power Company to power the city with streetlights and also power the emerging citrus packers. Shown is their office staff in front of their office. They planned to build a hydroelectric plant on Mill Creek. Impressed with the inventiveness of Marion Dekker through his work on the San Antonio Light and Power Company, they engaged him to design their plant. The specifications were identical to what he had done for Dr. Baldwin, including also three-phase. Before you is the Mill Creek Hydroelectric Plant, which was built during the later part of 1892. The funding for the most part came from Henry Fisher, a Pittsburgh capitalist. A division dam was constructed about 2 miles above the powerhouse, and a 30-inch steel pipe was installed through a tunnel, which was said to be 7,250 feet long. Now we are in the history-making Mill Creek Hydroelectric Plant. The front two generators made history on September 7, 1893, generating three-phase alternating current. The rear generator was brought in during 1898 to generate power from steam. The belt powered the generator from a steam engine placed outside. The drought caused this disruption. This is the switchboard for Mill Creek's hydroelectric plant. Union Ice Company built a new ice plant referred to as Union Ice No. 2 near Crafton. This location was strategic in that it could serve both Southern Pacific and the Santa Fe systems within the citrus-growing regions of San Bernardino and Riverside counties. This huge 200-horsepower electric motor before you energized the new ice plant, and the three-phase electric power was supplied by the Mill Creek Hydroelectric Plant. Union Ice found it cheaper to make the ice in Crafton because of its low cost of energy and ship the ice to the various users than to make the ice closer to their buyers in Los Angeles. What also made this situation special was that some claim this was the first recorded commercial buyer of hydroelectric power in the U.S. Now let's put this detour in perspective. Within approximately 9 months after Dr. Baldwin's success in long-distance transmission of electricity through the use of transformers, the Mill Creek plant on September 7, 1893, introduced three-phase alternating current as specified by Marion W Dekker through the newly formed General Electric Company. Mr. Dekker died on August 3, 1893, and never observed this historic moment in time. From his accomplished skills in engineering as stated by William A. Myers in his book Iron Men and Copper Wires, this became the type of electricity generated virtually everywhere. All of these contributions originated from California's Inland Empire. From a practical position with the introduction of electricity, this eliminated the job of stocking kerosene to fill each lamp and daily cleaning every lantern's glass lens. With the occurrence of electricity, the light bulbs providing lighting to California's second largest industry, the citrus industry. The two men seated at the top left with their backs to the camera were providing power to the two sizing machines through 2-foot treadles. At that time, the foot treadle was universal for most citrus packing houses. This is an outstanding photo of Upland Citrus Association circa 1905. The citrus industry located in and around Redlands had the opportunity of having electric arc lighting and electric motors to power their conveyor belts due to their location of being in the area of the Mill Creek hydroelectric plant. This photo shows the interior of Redlands Orange Producers Packing House, an early client of Mill Creek's three-phase electricity. Now the California citrus industry had the power and the means to modernize and grow. Order your copy by visiting the website www.citrusroots.com.